This is something that's been going on since the beginning of time here. Because Adam and Eve did not, like I've said before. I mean, you think about all the different color spectrums that have been genetically enhanced by mankind. Black, white, brown, this, that, different races, different generic types. How did they come to be? You know, we got to understand we're sitting alongside apes as well. Why are apes still here? Now, if we're going to get into this theory and we're going to go on understanding a much higher definition, there are several humanoids out there from even the Arcturian realms and other dimensional portals. Now, it's dispatching the note of effect as well of planetary seeding, that we had several races that have seeded the planet and maintain its own seeding awareness stream. So a lot of, we talked about this before, bringing in dimensional affiliation codes from other subspecies, other plant life before, bringing it onto this planet. DNA structures can be cooperative and co-enhanced. There are manufacturers as well as indoor scientists that help with this.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 50. Blue, how are you?
I'm good today, Mike.
Episode 50, a milestone episode. Congratulations, I'm very happy for you. Hey, what are we going to talk about today in episode 50?
Quantum AI and the peripheral visions of quantum computing, quantum computers, and digital-based Neuralink telelink algorithms that could be exacted and enacted with positive outcomes in the near future.
Wow, sounds like a lot. I've been hearing a lot about quantum this, quantum that, so I'm glad we're going to be able to lay out some groundwork and some definitions, and this is going to become, just like years ago, if you had told me we'd be doing a show like this the way we do it, I would have told you were out of your mind. But here we are, and I love every minute of it. Hey, before we get started, please make sure you go ahead and like, subscribe, follow, click on notifications so you're notified when we post new material. We're on a bunch of platforms here, and we look forward to adding a few more. If we're not on your favorite place to get information, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to do our best to get on that platform. And by the way, if you ever have comments or questions, we do answer those as well. You can always reach out to us on the socials. Blue, let's get right into it.
Yes, quantum computing also, as well as understanding the diligence of an actual computer term that is much more faster and much more intellectual than the current maintainment codes that already are coordinated with the internet itself and self-programmable speeds that go around the current realm. Now think of something out of a much more definitive point that could link up to the mind core. Something control and active formational codes also as well that can move forward with the digital money system, the quantum financial system. Now prioritize those two affiliated codes and actually moving in something much more of a more generated speed to maintaining both. Putting in quantum theories that can motivate the mind as well as the computer data stream itself. We're talking about generalizing something on a communication platform, generalizing something on a digital platform, but as also as well as manualizing it in a proper speed. With AI, you have to pay attention to computer generalizing computer data streams as well as advanced intelligence. When we're dealing with robotics or we're dealing with linking up something that could be manually put into the mindset itself. We have to understand the definition of where it can be placed next. Quantum AI would be the next generated future mode to maintaining things for the near future between financial stability, between communication stability, and between neural tech stability. It is much more advanced and much more encrypted than a regular computer itself.
Is this just another step in our natural progression as a culture, as a society, as a people? Because if you think about it, you know, it wasn't very long ago, and I say that in jest with what normal humans experience as a regular lifetime now, but just a few thousand years ago, we didn't have all these things. As a matter of fact, just 50 to 70 years ago, we didn't have all these things. We didn't have all this technology. Is this just another gradual step in our progression as a people?
Well, yes, and we got to understand what quantum computers will do. They're the next scale, the next manufacturer to calculate algorithms and input speeds to make sure that quantum data streams are analyzed, as well as motivating what the computing does, using specialized technology, using software and hardware, being able to solve complex problems that a normal computer wouldn't. Neuralink is part of a complex quantum system. That quantum system links up to the actual input speeds that goes to the second third eye, that root system itself. We've talked about the second third eye before. That status root system, and you signal that through analyzing what links up between it, you're unlocking the potential of inner psyche awareness streams. There are numerical amounts of self-analyzed neural data streams that have been locked up several times over from mankind. This has to do with several factors. Number one, mind ensnarement codes, being ensnared by the mind. Number two, what they proactively put into the body itself, including what big pharmaceuticals do, including what other foods, if those corporations do foods, those corporations even through electromagnetic fields. There have been vital roles that have been taken away, and those vital roles will come back to mankind now. But if you're computing a digital system and recreating through the membrane itself, you have to make sure that through AI, that you're not going to screw up the internal database stream that goes to the membranes, that goes to the actual mind core.
You know, it sounds like we're going to be a lot closer to, instead of carrying around one of these, having that ability right here. And you say that keyword Neuralink, and that makes me think of the guy we talk about all the time here, Elon Musk. I trust, just like Edison back in the day, and just like other pioneers and other great minds that we've had, I'm sure that he's an integral part of this. Is that so?
Yes, I mean, people want to be scared about Neuralink, want to be scared about computers and quantum and this and that, but they got to understand what goes into the digital-based system, what unlocks your peripheral visions back here. Setting into an example, when it's creating signals and it's computing those signals, it's going to open up the broadband streams of what humans have been disengaged from. There are numerical wavelengths that have been disengaged throughout the years. It's an unlock event. There is an actual membrane that connects through the back of the head itself. It helps open things up. People should not be scared of what they don't know. Instead, they should understand it a bit more and see what they can do to make it go forward. Just like with these quantum computers, paying attention, making sure that you're putting it into an equal standard and proactively moving it forward. because we do not want robotic systems overtaking mankind to an extent it creates corruption. We would want robotic systems and AI systems to cooperate alongside the mainframe of mankind to move things forward.
You know, I don't have a direct quote in front of me here, but I've often read how we only use a small portion of what our actual brain is. In other words, and I think, and I could be wrong here, but I think the number was somewhere around 10% of what the capacity of our brain could actually do. Is this going to help unlock us from not being able to use or partitioning our brain off of that other 90 or so percent? Or is the Neuralink itself going to be the integral tool and just bypass that, and we're still going to have non-usage of a great portion of our own brains?
It's an unlocking database stream to help self-analyze what can be opened up through the peripheral vision modes. But there are other numerical ways as well, so maintaining their own hologram, their own projection screen of what person is. And that includes what we extended about last time, to be able to regenerate oneself, or be able to have those hollow med beds, those actual quantum medical beds, become a reality. There are so many different ways of doing things and dealing with things between the mind, body, and soul. But it has to be something that's actively moving forward with the forces of life and not destroying it. And it makes it possible to understanding the agenda of making things better and bringing things on a more greener stance, better possibilities for mankind. Besides venturing into what he had dealt with Tesla, the Boring Company, OpenAI, there are several factors being played out.
One final question on this topic here. Is this something that, much like some of the great tools that we've come up with over time, fire, weaponry, so forth, this can be used for good and or evil, or is this something that I don't have to fear at all?
Quantum AI is more or less into the digital revolutionary software system to be able to maintain the codes of ethics for mankind. So between the Neuralink standards and communication platforms, it's also the distributor for the quantum financial system, or part of the main stabilizer code to moving things forward with that and a couple other organizations itself through the stat credit systems and maintainment systems for the next future.
You know, I was looking at the notes you had sent me here, and I see the next thing we want to talk about is cooperative genetics. Are these two things related in some way or no?
No, cooperative genetics is talking about what's going on with extraterrestrials and the agenda speeds of what happens to humankind when they are being abducted and or taken up. The different peripheral events of things happening upon the human shell and manufactured.
Is this something psychosomatic with people where kind of like they try to plant the idea that you have this disease or illness on a commercial, so you need to ask your doctor about this certain medicine put out by big pharma? This is strictly with extraterrestrials and kind of because I've seen and heard of this before where we were actually converted into a human race by them messing with our genes.
Well, big pharma, they have to do with another type of race. And that race wouldn't have to do with, certain grays it may have, but there are several other types of gray races and entity beings that have cooperated with mankind and affiliated movement streams to DNA analysis code. And one type of this peripheral movement stream goes through seeding itself. And when I talk about seed implants is when a woman's pregnant and they be taken up and or abducted and they lose the visionary prospect of what's going on. They end up losing the implementation code of the human itself, the baby. Now, what happens is that certain genetic code is being altered and taken into another event. And that certain genetic code really is not being purposely taken away from the human per se, but is being maintained on an orthogonal stance or maintained its via another planetized gridding point, or appointed into its own. The genesis code between Furon Greys and humans have a very similar aspect, as well as the genetic codes of what has been altered over the years. Humans did not come here from Adam and Eve, neither did they evolve from apes.
It's amazing because, and I reflected on this in the past few shows about the show Resident Alien that I've been watching, and everything you just said happens. I don't mean to be a spoiler, but everything you just said about the seeding and about the, taking of a baby maybe or something, all that stuff was played out in the show, and it's given me chills to hear you now validate what I had seen. And again, that tends to make me believe that the Hollywood again is responsible for dripping out some of the truths. Is this something that's been going on forever, or is this something that's just now happening?
Yes, this is something that's been going on since the beginning of time here. Because Adam and Eve did not, like I've said before, I mean, you think about all the different color spectrums that have been genetically enhanced by mankind. Black, white, brown, this, that, different races, different generic types. How did they come to be? You know, we got to understand we're sitting alongside apes as well. Why are apes still here? Now, if we're going to get into this theory and we're going to go on understanding a much higher definition, there are several humanoids out there from even the Arcturian realms and other dimensional portals. Now, it's dispatching the note of effect as well of planetary seeding, that we had several races that have seeded the planet and maintain its own seeding awareness stream. So a lot of, we talked about this before, bringing in dimensional affiliation codes from other subspecies, other plant life before, bringing it onto this planet. DNA structures can be cooperative and co-enhanced. There are manufacturers as well as indoor scientists that help with this.
Is it possible that I could have this have had this happen to me and not know it? For instance, I saw in the notes here you were going to talk about scoop marks and alien implants. These things were discussed on that TV show I was talking about, but I'm curious, is it possible that I could be unaware and maybe I have a little mark on my body, or maybe I have a little scooped out area somehow and I can't really recall what that's from? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes, I even have one myself. I have laser marks, but being as a higher genetic code, I've dealt with these beings before. So one on my leg, it's a little small for others to see, but it looks just like the one I sent you. They are actual real scoop marks that they use with an microscopic type of technology, and they take the genetics code out of the human skin. It doesn't harm the person. It just creates a mark there that really doesn't go away. And that mark, when they take the genetics, they only bring up certain types of DNA codes from certain beings, ones that they could prove worthwhile, or ones that can maintain the DNA codes of the zones of effect between them. Or like I said, most, if not all humans have some type of Furon DNA within their hypermolecule stream. That's why Greys kind of look like humans in a way, certain types. Now, going back to the scoop marks, claiming the genetics, and there's a possibility of, while reclaiming the genetics of cloning modification scenes or reenacting the hypermolecules itself of what can be maintained.
Is this a type of thing where maybe it's, and the closest thing I can say is maybe in Men in Black, they use that magic pen there or whatever, that wand to wipe out your memory of the past 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 days, however long it was. Is this something where events could have happened to me and I may not know it because I've been encoded with some sort of memory loss?
Yes, memory loss is very notable to most humans. Some humans don't get that. They remember everything, and that's when they disappear, honestly. Obviously, from MIB and other personnel. But regardless of the effect, they can create vertigo, which people, when they become really dizzy, especially when they implement it with certain things, or it could create a short-term memory loss. But what most humans don't understand is they're able to fix that memory loss that they have been in turn with. Some of the memory loss, though, in some species, when they do this, they're not positive beings, and they create that purposely. Other species wouldn't create the memory loss, and they would give people nightmares. Those aren't good beings. You would know the difference between one of the two. The memory loss intake stream, and you notice numerical events did not play at a bad role, but played at some type of neutral or good role, then maybe go into self-meditation and telepathy and find out through your own peripheral events and scanning through the main energy indexing point itself of that loss and seeing where it came from the original mark. There are pinpoints of energy itself that are locked onto the DNA skin and the follicles of mankind when they are being propelled upwards by these beings at different turns. That's why some of the star units itself create some type of hyphenated energy level or nuclear irradiated energy level. And some humans, when they have been taken upwards, they had some type of radiation that was set upon them afterwards, or even with stuff that was messed with them.
So
higher beings use equipment that have radiation in it, but they're able to use it a bit better than humans, obviously.
So before we move on to the SCP Foundation here, I just want to be clear. This has nothing to do with me being able to recognize and remember every word to a song from the 80s or 90s, but not being able to remember what I went in the kitchen for. This is something totally different, right?
It would just create a memory loss that from when you would be taken up into the star unit and what was done to you at the time. Sure. There's even memory losses to those that had been taken up and have been gone for several hours and have come back and gone missing. But one more thing, as we will be talking about, is the alien implants itself. With alien implants, they are different, and people who usually have these are created as vital roles or subculture structures that they have to maintain. And, Resident Alien, they had implants on that as well. Radar screens through Greys. Even talk about Greys. Most Greys deal with implants. There are other beings as well, but they're more or less higher technological beings that can maintain where that being's going and also program to be able to get informational screening layers off the module itself. There are some that have been reprogrammed through these types of implants, and they have upgraded them in a way.
Crazy stuff. Crazy. I'm glad we get to talk about everything we do talk about on the show here. And I'm especially glad when we talk about SCP Foundation. And let's get into the SCP.
SCP-266. Will-o'-the-Wisp. It's a number of free-floating gaseous material possessing a natural luminescence which exists in a bright purple or white glow. In most cases, it feels cold to the touch and exerts an endothermic effect on its immediate surroundings. And the coordinated effect is this. It clings to humankind most of all, and rather avoid any other type of mammalian coat. Despite having no obvious nervous system, it appears to react to stimuli and is concerned to learn certain habits based upon its experiences. And with this type of being, is able to actually create a verbal layer or communication platform between itself and humans. It needs heat, but it creates an endothermic effect, or hypothermic effect, though. If it gets too close for too long a time to humans, it could kill them with that hyperthermic effect. So if you had like a certain clothing structure or extra layer, you'd be able to get close to these beings. They're not bad entities. They're considered safe. And they're more considered on a paranormal side that is deal with the authorical layers. There are several actual Garthan realms that have these will-o'-wisps as well. Talked about it on several movies too.
is this related to sometimes when I hear people, and they may not have understood what they were looking at, but they've been identified as UAPs, UFOs. Is that the same thing, or is there something, are they something similar in physical appearance to us?
No, they're just like a ball of light. They're a gaseous entity. And you got to think about certain movies that had will-o'-the-wisp in it. It talked about will-o'-wisps, these wisps, or just wisps itself, like balls of light. They're paranormal entities or authorical beings that maneuver around between the realms. And they conduit to heat, and they like the heat mainly of humankind.
Are these here to just observe us, or are these here for some sort of other function? Maybe we need to be more connected to the will of the wisp, and maybe we need to do something more with this.
Well, connections between personalities to be revealed English words and phrases being used alongside the standard dialect. But it's much more or less like a parrot. So it's kind of an in-between species, but it's interested in certain types of heat. And yes, it's even interested in communicating with others to an extent, as certain paranormal entities are.
This next one I see here on the list, SCP-294. This one blows my mind.
Yeah. The coffee machine. It appears to be a standard coffee vending machine. The only noticeable difference is being an entry touchpad that buttons correspond to English QWERTY keyboard. Upon depositing 50 cents U.S. currency into the coin slot, the user is prompted to enter the name of any liquid. When we're talking about any liquid, it goes on to at least 97 initial test runs of 90 different types of liquid. And we're not talking about all of it of something someone can drink. There are liquids as well, like motor oil, sulfuric acid, a wiper fluid, non-consumable this can create.
See, I have questions here, because if I look at, or if, you know, my understanding of like a vending type machine, it has to be replenished, it has to be restocked, it has to have a source to get these things. Does this self-replicating in a way? It
Yes,
has its own internal replenishing?
Yes, it self-replicates. It creates substances that are non-consumable and substances that are consumable. And certain foundation, it is in the foundation, it's kept there. They monitor it. They also deal with tests with this machine. Now, with experimentation, we have to understand that trying to coordinate and putting things into the machine that is not what it's already combined for would cause a problem and would hurt somebody or kill them. There's certain drinks that they had tried before, and they tried it with other agent members, and created an off-balancing strain. And the contents dispensed by a combination of blood, tissue, and other bodily fluids. But we can understand, if we're messing with things that could reprogram from another dimension, we don't need to add to it, to what we don't know of. But it's complete recovery, hydration, the certain agent, but then I have self-monitorization zones, and they have to monitor each and every person who actually gets and messes with this machine itself. You know, if humans could have something like this in the near future, but taking away the negative expanse, and it has a link-up code, so that way you're not causing problems, getting something you're not supposed to, there's a possibility that we're not going to, that we could create certain fluids or certain types of elements itself into proposition that could help.
And just to be clear, is this a one-off thing? This is just the one that's contained, or are there others?
As far as I know, this is the only known one, because it was obtained from a site at one time. Now, the only problem with this is it does not create physical layers of things like diamond or other type of elements that can create a physical aspect. More or less into a liquid status.
Wow, that's crazy stuff. 50 cents is a pretty good price for a cup of coffee, though. Hey, what do we have to report from your positions with the Space Force and the Federation?
Yes, just something about Donald Trump. One thing, Election Day will be Christian Visibility Day. Well, doesn't that remind you of Easter? You know, they did post this recently. This is putting into term of what the stupid Biden administration has done. Visibility Day, we're talking about trans visibility day on Easter. You know, they want to put their corrupt system in, fine. We'll put our good system in instead. We'll create something on a good layer term. Christian Visibility Day, fine. Election Day, hey, let's look forward to something great instead of looking forward to something that's self-analyzed on a super peripheral vote. You know, paying attention also as well that the Mexican border is getting out of hand. The corrupt system is getting worse. And if we have another 4 years of the Biden administration, I'm sorry, people, but there will be no America left. It's going to come into the centralized zones of affairs through Mexico. It's going to become something that will become so corrupt, it's going to create. And we're already in a war. If you don't even realize that, you need to wake up from. In our own way of life, we're in a Cold War. We're in an in-between status format. But we do not want to go into a third world war. So we got the Democrat and then we got the Republican races. Where's the in-between? Where's our motivator? This worries me. Because they have these people coming in from the borders consistently, even families. And they're just bringing their families in to kill them. They had reports of a illegal person just coming in to stab his wife to death for their children in Chicago apartment just 2 weeks after they moved in, after they crossed the border. This is a shame upon humanity.
Yeah.
I'm not saying totally shut down the border itself and just say screw everybody. I'm saying let's stop the evil. Let's stop the corruption because it's getting worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How about ET of the week?
Yes, ET of the week, Air Roz, or you must call it Skyfish, solar entity, Roz himself. Optical analyst includes peripheral vision modes of paranormal interpretations of phenomena appearing in the sky or around events through the camera itself. Alien life forms, or an understanding of entities that have created layers upon themselves. So if you're dealing with this, you're dealing with an understanding of attempting what they had talked about with Roswell. And I did send a picture. It may have been quite a while back ago. We have talked about an actual gray entity that showed up in this picture, this video. And there's rods that showed up with it. They're the same thing. There are signalized portal rods or portal sky rods itself that create these entities into the peripheral visions of camera indexing speeds, or even the peripheral visions of the eyes itself. Some people have mistaken them for insects flying in front of cameras. Yeah, some of them may have been, but you got to pay attention to those two differences. This itself, when this picture was taken, there was nothing behind me at all whatsoever. There are lines that actually bring in other entities. They can be really fast, or they can create numerical types of portals for those entities to go between one formational code to the other itself. This created several layers of it, and it actually brought in the entity right in the back, right behind it.
So this is a good, bad, or indifferent?
Well, I mean, there's movement speeds of actual entities being programmed into the matrix. They're rods. They're good, obviously. They're not going to harm nobody. Some of them are even our Earth and realm entities that have moved in between the dimensions at such a high, fast pace. The orthorical strands are creating an overlayer itself.
Fascinating stuff. And just like that, we're out of time again. Time flies when you're having fun. And by the way, before we wrap up, hey, I just want to let you know, see the shirts with the logo that Blue and I have? You can be part of the show. You can be part of the cause. You can be part of the movement. Go ahead and check out the link in the comments. We look forward to another 50 episodes. Blue, great job today as always.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, we'll see you next time.